West Midlands Employers for Employment, or E4E for short, is a partnership funded through the ITM strand of ESF. As such, we had to have a transnational partner to be eligible. We were fortunate in that we knew a partner in Germany we thought would be ideal because we'd worked with them on an Interreg program in the past. And that partnership lasted a year until there was a change of political complexion in the regional government of North Rhine-Westphalia, where the partner was, and the new government decided that they had other priorities as far as employment work goes, so we couldn't carry on that relationship. We then had about 6 months where we were between partners, and then through good work by the ITM unit and their Swedish and Polish counterparts, we were able to find 3 new partners, 1 in Poland and 2 in Sweden, through the mechanism of a transnational partner forum in Warsaw. We're still working with the 2 Swedish partners, and those relationships are 2 years old now and are now becoming very productive. So we've got some quite practical outcomes in both policy and practice. The Polish relationship was short-lived but fruitful and inspired some very innovative work by the Accord Housing Group around blended learning. E4E works with 2 Swedish organisations. The first is called Job Focus E18, E18 being a road that links 3 towns in the Värmland county of Sweden, which is where our partner's based. It's a small private sector SME, and they have an ESF project which is about the 3 local authorities collaborating, but also they bid for a transnational element which was working with us. And I think what they've gained from the experience is partly it's cemented their own partnership, because there's nothing like an overseas trip to bring people together and provide some time away from distractions and the workaday situation. So it's consolidated their partnership, but it's also given them some new ideas, particularly around the use of social enterprise as a vehicle for enhancing people's employability and being a springboard for perhaps self-employment for some individuals. And then the other partner is a national project. It's called AMIA, and it links the Swedish Public Employment Service with the Swedish Social Insurance Agency. And it's really a program about cultural change linked to the welfare to work agenda of the Swedish government. And one very practical example of what they've gained from this relationship is that they've shelled out £20,000 for a software product, or it's called Identify, and it's a product which they saw in Stoke. It's a sort of traffic light system that enables employment advisors to fairly quickly classify clients according to what kind of support needs they have. And so the Swedes, as we speak in October 2012, are having some training on Identify, and they're going to be using that in the future, and initial indications are very positive. The E4E partnership looks to its transnational activities for stimulation of innovation, really, and we've had examples of that, particularly with our Swedish partners, because they're much longer established relationships. To do them in reverse order, the relationship with AMIA, I should just say a little bit. AMIA is a national project linking the Swedish Social Insurance Agency with the Swedish Public Employment Service, and it's about bringing those 2 national providers together to provide a seamless service for long-term sick clients who are having to transition to unemployment benefit, part of the Swedish government's welfare to work agenda. So it's a culture change program, basically, and that's one of the things that Coventry has taken from AMIA. On a micro level, Coventry has just created a new job shop, opened a new job shop in the centre of Coventry for clients not on the work programme. And they were able to use some of the training tools that they saw in AMIA to work with the new staff, particularly looking at empowering the staff to devise their own customer charter and think about what would constitute excellence in terms of customer service. And they also used a gender equality training tool that they learned about in Sweden, called Tänk tvärtom, which means think the opposite. And they feel it could be adapted to look at people with disabilities, for example, or black and minority ethnic groups, any disadvantaged client group, and that's going to be quite effective. And also it's believed that they're going to be able to, well, they have already persuaded Job Centre Plus to allow some of their staff who are moving into an even larger integrated co-located job centre to have more autonomy in terms of the way they operate. And that's something, again, that they've picked up from AMIA and that they feel is particularly beneficial, rather than working to a prescribed formulaic sort of script. E4E's initial foray into transnational work was with our German partner, the Gesellschaft für innovative Beschäftigungsförderung, which means innovative employment creation company or employment promotion company, a sort of parastatal in North Rhine-Westphalia. We visited them in October 2009, and that was really the first time that the E4E partnership had sort of been away anywhere together. Came at the end of quite a difficult initial year for the partnership, and it was, I think, instrumental in really consolidating and bonding the partners together. We had 4 days, a very intense program, but 4 days together, so really got to know each other, got to know our organisations and what we did in terms of tackling unemployment. So it was fundamental really in laying the groundwork for a very fruitful partnership, and you can mark a change in the way steering group meetings were conducted before and after that meeting, I think, as a result. And then our Swedish partners, we have two. One is called Job Focus E18, which is a small SME in the Värmland part of Sweden, and it works with 3 local authorities who are linked by a road called the E18, hence Job Focus E18. What I think we've learned from them is the importance of personality matching in finding jobs for unemployed clients. They're quite a small organisation, only work with maybe 25 clients at a time, perhaps 80 or so in a year. And their advisors get to know their clients extremely well, but in parallel with that, they're working on long-term relationships with employers, so they really know what kind of things the employers are looking for in a worker. And this enables them to sort of match people, not so much by their skill set, but by their personality. And they found that really provides sustainable job outcomes. And so Coventry and Stoke, E4E partners, are now piloting that approach and using it. In Coventry, they are using it particularly with the supported employment service, which works with people with learning difficulties. And their advisors know their clients very well, but they've now been tasked with finding work on an individualised basis, so building relationships with employers and then matching by personality, really. Would this person fit? Will the employer like them? And they've devised an employer questionnaire as part of that process, which we're now feeding back and sharing with Job Focus. I think one of the lessons that we learned in this activity was the importance of having a transnational cooperation agreement that you work on with your partners, but that you don't then set in aspic. It's a tool, a working tool. You've got to come back to it, review it, and use it as a way of guiding your collaboration. We didn't do that with our initial German partners, and we have done it with both the Polish and Swedish partners, and I think it's proved valuable. Another thing I'd say is that it's important to think about who you're taking on the visits and have the right mix of senior policymakers, if you like, management, but also practitioners, and fairly senior practitioners who have the power to be able to implement change on their return. And then at a programme level, I think one of the weaknesses really of the ITM strand of ESF this time round was the short lead time and the absence of any development phase, linked to the fact that other countries didn't have programmes in parallel at the time. So I think for the next round, next iteration, it would be great if all the member states that sign up for transnational activity could launch at the same time, provide some money for development, and ideally have some sort of online partner search facility, database, or a series of events to really help accelerate the process of partner finding, because that's crucial. Find the right partner early on and you'll reap the benefits down the line.